Hello everyone, I am NWO WWE, also known as NWOWE, because that's a really pain in the neck to pronounce, and this is a Let's Play of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, as we see right here. So here's the level select feature, which was introduced in this game, and here we have our nice opening cutscene, which is a first for the franchise really, as far as, from Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 to this game, where we see the game picking up pretty much right where the second game left off, and here comes Knuckles blasting away all our emeralds and spoiling our supersonic fun. I'm not really going to bother collecting the emeralds in this one because watching Blue Sphere kind of be boring after a while. I mean, I like playing Blue Sphere, but watching it's not really as fun. And now here's an interesting thing I thought, just while I saw that back there. And if you look up there, you could see the background, and you could see the ocean and all that. If you're playing as Knuckles, actually that scene changes into a skyline. And I guess that really helps reinforce the fact that their storylines actually take place at different times. That's something I didn't actually notice until recently. Other than that, we're going to collect our first shield here in a minute. We're going to have the bubble shield, and we get to have some fun with the bubble bounce. And of course, one thing this definitely does is prevent you from drowning. Now, with the addition of the bubble shield, you're pretty much never going to drown, because once you get the bubble shield, you'll realize how overpowered the shields are in this game. I mean, they can deflect pretty much almost any projectile in the game that an enemy can throw at you. So, unless you hit a spike trap or just walk into an enemy, you're pretty much not going to drown at all. And I guess that's a good thing, considering there's not a lot of water in level, but the next zone, Hydra City. Well, if you don't have the water shield, especially for the first act, you can actually find yourself in some rather dire situations unless you stay to the top. But we're not talking about Hydra City. We're in Angel Island here, and we're actually gonna have our first encounter with the mini boss. And you can't actually kill it here, but in an interesting, you actually encounter it before you actually fight it. And then it bombs the place and actually radically changes the entire background, which I thought was really interesting. It's like it bombs the place, and of course, this actually doesn't really affect anything here, except there's one bridge that kind of burns, but you don't, or it's not a bridge, just one of those hang ropes that burns, and you can't fly the whole way across it. All right, so here we have the lightning shield, which is probably the best shield in the game, mostly because of the double jump that we see here and the fact that it can gravitate rings towards you, which is also very helpful. But for this purposes, we want the fire shield because it's going to make this boss even more of a joke than it would normally be. You can just stand under it, and you're not going to get hurt by the fire at all, and pretty much just destroy without any effort. Now here's another interesting thing was the fact that the end of the axe sign can actually bring power-ups up from the ground if they hit the right spot. Figure pretty much everyone knows about that one, the bubble shield, if you just let it drop down. Don't really need the bubble shield because you're not really going to be spending a lot of time underwater, but I always like to grab it. It's always fun, plus bouncing around is always a lot of fun. So yeah, this is about as much time as we're going to spend underwater, pretty much going under here and grabbing this extra life that we don't need. Yeah, so we're gonna go through the fact that this one, the level design isn't really too different between the acts. There's some of the acts where the level design gets a lot different, which I think really makes it kind of fun. I mean, especially the next one, Hydra City, is a lot different, but I guess the only thing I have is that compared to the Green Hill Zone, Emerald Hill Zone, this one just wasn't as memorable as the first act. I mean, I guess the whole burning gimmick that they did with the blimps fire bombing the place was kind of interesting, but it just didn't have like that really classic feel to it. I mean, Sonic 3 is still my favorite. Sonic 3 Knuckles is still my favorite of all the Sonic games. Actually, it's my favorite game of all time, but I guess that's the only thing where it kind of fell short from the other games, is it didn't really have that iconic opening level, in my opinion. But it still had some fun. I mean, now this thing I can't figure out over there why there's that rhino on that U-slope and that vine. I mean, I have to imagine that some programmer designed levels coming up with something, and then they just sort of went to lunch and they came back like, what the hell was I doing there? And I just forgot about it and left it in there because as far as I know, it doesn't serve any real purpose whatsoever. There's no rings over there. You pretty much have to go out of your way to actually go over there and hit the Rhino. There's nothing really about it. And here's another thing that was interesting is this the airship chase, which I thought it was a pretty cool way of showing off Sonic's speed, and it's sort of like an active cutscene really, which was a nice thing for the Genesis Sonic games, a nice innovation. Once again, you're not going to get hurt by it unless you're playing stupidly, but it's still kind of a cool scene. And then, of course, we get a nice little bit of more dynamic background. You see the boss flying through there, and then come over here, and then the force scrolling stops, and we can actually battle the boss, which is, with the fire shield, is pretty easy. Although I will say, in terms of first zone bosses, it's actually probably the hardest of between Sonic 1 and Sonic 3's, because there's bottomless pits, and if you don't have the fire shield, it actually can be a somewhat threat, and especially if you're playing as Knuckles, when all the Knuckles bosses are harder. But it's still, I guess that was a nice plus, is that they actually made the first boss kind of interesting and actually made it a little bit tough. Now here's another bit where we're going to have a transition where Knuckles knocks the bridge out from under. Of course, you can jump out from under it, but... Alright, so next episode we're going to head to the Hydra City Zone, and I guess I'll see you then.